Let's move on. Let's talk some actual rugby. We'll get some proper news from Owen a little bit later on as well. But we want to go to Gregor Paul from the New Zealand Herald, who obviously is not in New Zealand at the moment, is in Japan. Gregor, good afternoon to you. It is afternoon where you are?
It is afternoon indeed, yep.
So the All Blacks team is named, and I've been reading some of your stuff in recent days, and you feel a little bit like a lot of us do, that maybe the real New Zealand have not really been fully showing their hand until not even next week. Well, sorry, this week, the game against South Africa. Like, this is the moment where everything that has been up to this point, the phony war falls away and the real war begins.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And look, I don't think it's been entirely deliberate. I think they would have liked to have shown a wee bit more than they have coming into the World Cup. So I don't think they've controlled that entirely. But I don't think there's any doubt that they've been working very carefully and deliberately towards building an attacking game that I wouldn't say they've kept it secret, but they haven't really been able to show all the parts of it. They've deliberately held bits of it back in the games that they've played so far this year. And up here in Japan, behind closed doors, they've also been working on the last parts of it and getting used to building it. And like, I guess what they're telling us, and if we're going to believe them, we're going to find out on Saturday, that they think they've remodeled their attack game and they've worked out a few answers as to how you can unlock the inevitable rush defences that so many of the teams are going to bring at them.
Okay, and what would that entail?
Well, I mean, I don't think they've divulged that part yet. But I mean, I think we can. What we do know about the All Blacks is that they don't normally take a lot of time to be innovative, do they, and work out the answer to the problem. So they've had a problem for maybe a bit longer than they would have liked in dealing with teams like Ireland and South Africa, who are very good at getting off the line, shutting down space, and not giving them any room to play. Both of those teams and England have been very good at it. And the All Blacks haven't responded that well to date in the last year or so to that sort of challenge. But I think what we do know about the All Blacks is that they go away and they work out and they analyse and they come up with a plan. And how it looks, I guess we'll find out on Saturday. But I think we will definitely see something that will be asking a few more questions of defensive coaches at this World Cup about how quickly and able they're going to be able to respond to what the All Blacks produce. Is
Steve Hansen the architect of that plan, or is there somebody in the backroom team whose job it is actually to go, okay, I've gone and I've run the algorithm in my brain a million times to see what will happen if we play with two decision makers at 10, 15, and if we had these two guys who are playing the way we know they can play, then actually that is the right way to unlock the issue that has been causing us trouble over the last 2 years. Is there somebody else in the backroom team other than Steve Hansen whose job that is?
Yeah, look, probably Ian Foster, the assistant coach, will have had a big input, and absolutely the players. Many of the players, particularly Bowden Barrett, Mo'unga, and a few others, will have been feeding in quite heavily into what they've been experiencing on the field, and some of the ideas that they might have had. We saw the Crusaders this year under the very careful guise of Ronan O'Gara, no less, who created a lot of clever ways for the Crusaders to play against rush defences, because we saw rush defence being more commonly used in Super Rugby, and the Crusaders were quite brilliant at dealing with it. So that was Ronan O'Gara that drove that for them. So I think it'll be a collective and collaborative effort as to how they want to attack. But probably, in all honesty, it's Hansen's job as the head coach to say, look, this is the one single issue that we've got in the game at the moment. Defences have become too good. Too many teams are spending more and more time on the defence, and they're getting very, very good at it. We need to be the team that forces a rethink around world rugby and puts attack back on as the priority agenda for all teams to develop.
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, it's exactly the time that you want to be presented with the problem 18 months out, 2 years out, as opposed to discovering in the middle of the World Cup going, this is a very interesting new trouble we've suddenly come up against, and we've got a week and a half to fix it.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if the timing's that deliberate. I don't really think that they wanted to get to the World Cup without having seen a bit more of their game plan working. We haven't seen, I think Hansen and Foster wanted to see a little bit more than they did against South Africa and Australia in the first two games of this year. So they were probably a wee bit disappointed they haven't actually built it a little bit further down the track before the World Cup. But look, you're right. If if you can unleash something, look at the All Blacks in '95 when they brought John Olomo into the World Cup. No one had a clue what to do about him, did they? And, we've seen other teams, maybe, the French are probably quite good at keeping what they're going to be doing at a World Cup under wraps and then unleash it on the day. And you're like, wow, nobody thought that was coming. So it's a good time if you can do it. If you can sucker everyone into thinking you're weak, where in actual fact you're planning on being strong, then, the World Cup is the right place to unleash all that.
Well, you're singing a song that every Irish rugby fan absolutely hopes is true about our team and Joe Schmidt, and him obviously having had the experience that he had the last time we went into the World Cup with actually a stronger starting 15 than we have now. But I guess that's a conversation for a different day. In terms of what you expect from South Africa, they're definitely a team who, it seems from this side of the world anyway, are strutting around the place, very happy with how their game is going at the moment and very happy with their position in the world as a team who have come ready to spoil the party.
Oh, like, absolutely. I was in Auckland when the All Blacks beat them 57-0 under a different coach, and that was the nadir for them, and brought them round to bringing in Rassie Erasmussen to coach them, and they've ripped up everything that they did. But I don't think they've reinvented how they play, and there's not a huge amount of intrigue or subtlety about it, and I don't mean that disparagingly about them, because what they do is so hugely effective. They play with so much defensive impact. They defend superbly. They kick brilliantly off Faf de Klerk and Andre Pollard. They put a huge amount of pressure on teams through their kicking game. And I guess the difference that Erasmus has brought with them, they've got a couple of wingers there who can really take advantage of opportunity, and Orlandi in the midfield is a great ball player. So I guess the difference with the Boks at the moment is they put a huge amount of pressure on teams, through their structured play, but they can play off turnover ball now. They've got speed and awareness and the ability to move the ball. Willie LaRue's another one who's very, very good at playing against an unstructured defence. And you start looking at that and you go, well, they're brilliant at set piece, great driving maul, very good at scrummaging, and now they can do the counter-attack stuff nearly as well as the All Blacks can. And you're like, jeepers, where's this team got a weakness at the moment? And I don't see too many.
Yeah. What do you actually expect to happen in the game then this weekend?
Well, I think both teams are sort of telegraphed. Whether you believe them or not, well, we're going to find out. But, the Boks haven't hidden away from how they're going to play. And the All Blacks today, in announcing their team, Steve Hansen made it very clear that he believes that, the Boks are going to kick, and they're going to kick, and then they're going to kick again. And they're going to run up the middle of the park with the big ball carriers that they have, Vermeulen and Steph de Twat. Those guys are just going to come up the middle of the field, thump, thump, thump. And if that doesn't work, then they're going to kick again. And if that doesn't work, they're going to thump back up the middle of the field. So he's not really expecting a huge amount of variation in what they're going to do. But as he says, the difficulty of playing the Springboks is not working out what they're going to do. Because even when you know what they're going to do, it's still really difficult to stop them, because you can't underestimate the size of that pack and the ball-carrying impact that they have and how hard it is to stop them on the gain line. And you can't underestimate how good they are at stopping other teams on the gain line and controlling the momentum of the game and the pace that it's played at.
Gregor, it's been a big story in this part of the world about the Dianti positive sample. So obviously this is a member of the South African squad test positive. Then the squad take that infamous now photograph of themselves looking particularly ripped, and people are questioning the judgment call that was made by that group of players to show just how strong they are in the wake of a positive drug test of one of their teammates. Has this made a ripple in New Zealand? Is it something that people are talking about in advance of this game at all?
Oh, like a wee bit. I'd imagine. I'm not a great follower of social media, but I believe there's been a fair bit of banter about that, through the rugby fraternity in New Zealand. It was an ill-advised picture. I know they probably didn't put two and two together at the time, because you don't, but everyone's looking at that and drawing conclusions and drawing dots and going, wow, what's going on over there? And that's probably not fair, because it's casting aspersions on guys that we shouldn't do. But it was an ill-advised or a quirk of timing that has left a few questions being asked in New Zealand, because I think while there's enormous respect between the two nations, particularly the two rugby teams, they get on well, they love playing against each other, it's ferocious when they do it, There is probably buried in the New Zealand psyche a sense of distrust going back into the realms of time where they used to go to South Africa in the old days and they didn't encounter neutral referees, and there's apparently way before my time test matches that were turned by local referees finding tries that no one else saw, that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of that goes on, and there's also a feeling of that they're, over in the Republic, they're a bit of a law unto themselves at times. So, yep, there's been a bit of chat about that back home.
Yeah, and is there a concern that, like, unless everybody else around the rugby world start to ask South Africa to make sure that they're applying the same standards to all of their players that everybody else is trying to apply, that maybe this might not always be the most even playing field when it comes to playing against South African teams at any level?
I don't think anyone's jumping that far ahead or worried about it too much. And the proof of the pudding's always in the eating, isn't it? So no matter what's been going on, not for 1 minute suggesting anything has, we'll find out how fit the Africans are, on Saturday, because it's hot, humid. The All Blacks want to play at a cracking pace. So whatever's been happening, however teams have been preparing, whatever methods any team has, if they're ultimately not that successful this weekend, I don't know if it's a story that will gather a pace or not at that point, because it will probably die a death, I would have thought. Okay, it'll be interesting to track that as the tournament progresses. One last question for you. Are Scotland going to beat Ireland at the weekend? It wouldn't surprise me if Scotland do beat Ireland, but then go and lose to Japan and end up being eliminated that way, because we will find a curious way to get knocked out of the World Cup at the pool stages. But I wouldn't underestimate the heat and the humidity, and I think that's an afternoon kick-off. And I wouldn't know the last time that Ireland and Scotland played in conditions like that. They don't often find that in Dublin or Edinburgh, I don't suppose. So that will be an intriguing factor to see which one of them can cope. And I know that Scotland really do enjoy playing a wide and expensive game at the moment, and whether they can produce that in these conditions, we'll have to wait and see. But all I know about World Cups is that everyone has expectations. You look at the favourites and you think, they're going to win. But invariably, results, Japan beat South Africa, France beat the All Blacks, that kind of stuff happens, and the World Cup gets tipped upside down, and all of a sudden, Ireland are playing New Zealand, but they're playing as, New Zealand 1 and Ireland 2, or Ireland 1 and New Zealand 2, and it turns up different results, doesn't it? So look, I'd imagine Scotland can beat Ireland, but I would never, ever back Scotland to do it, because I've got so little trust in our ability to do it. I think locked together in our mutual fear of defeat to each other is exactly how our Celtic nations have come to be such good friends over the years. Gregor, great to have you with us. Enjoy the World Cup, man. Thanks a million. Thanks, mate.